Good night, teacher. We are going to present a reading exam about some strategies and tips.
Okay, the reading and the use of the English paper is about grammar, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. There are 7 sections to do in 75 minutes, basically 10 minutes per section. Next one, please. Okay, what these pages will teach you? Okay, why you shouldn't start with the section 1, how to prepare, how to improve your time management, the importance of spelling, and some tips and tricks. Next one, please. Okay, the most of the students starts with the part 1 and finish with the part 7. That is fine, of course, but isn't really the most effective ways. Okay, like an advice, it is easy to start with the section that asks you to write words and leave to the multiple choice till later. Okay, so you have to do it as in this order: 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 6, and 7. Or maybe you can do it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Or you might want to start with the part 1 because it is one that you can see very quickly, but you have to never leave the part 2 and 4 to the end. Next one, please. For the time management, some of the section is reading and the use English. You have answered with that. You can worry out if you spend enough time thinking about them. You have to start with the part 4. You have to do it quickly. You either know the answer or you don't. Don't waste time here. Next, you have to go to the part 3. You have to spend more time here because you can lose easy points by being careless. It is worth spending a minute checking your answers before you move on. The part 2, you have a lot of you know it or you don't kind questions. So you have to do it very quickly. The next is the part 1. It is also with I know this or I have no idea type questions. This should be the faster section of the mobile. And the final, if you follow these tips and practice a few times, you should find that you have lost the time left to do the sections 5, 6, and 7. That is important because there is a lot of text to read and you don't want to have time stress when you are trying to understand a long piece of writing. You have to read the titles and read the examples. Okay, the next one, please. In the FCE reading and use of English, you have the tips. In the part 1, you have a short text with 8 words missing. You must choose from 4 options the best word for each space. I think the part 1 is a nice. It's nice. It is easy to start. I mean, it is easy in the sense that it doesn't take much brain energy. You either know the answer or you don't. You have to do well here. You should brand or you have to be clear with the phrasal verbs, collocation, and the kind of synonyms. You will find in the internet some extra practice in some articles. Okay, you have should you read the whole text first? No, it depends how much you read. In English, is your daily life. If you read a lot, you will probably be able to just look at the sentence and find the best answer. But you as a student, you should read in the quickly and have an idea. You have to read a lot. Next one, please. And to finally, we have the tips. The best way to prepare for the reading test is to read a lot. If you know how 2 of the options have the same meaning, neither you can be the answer. Remember the title is there to help you. And you have to clear with the proposition. You have very clear and you very have the propositions. Okay, thank you.
Okay, for reading part 2, this is very similar to part 1, except you don't have a choice of words. You have to think of the answer out by yourself. Should I read the whole text first? It's a good idea to read through the text before you start thinking the answer. If you don't read and understand what the greeted want to say, you could put the word answer. For example, some words will be negative. What are the most common answers? It's always the grammar stuff. This is an example of this part 2. Next one, please. Okay, about part 3, guess what is another text with 8 gaps. This time is a test your ability to turn word into adjectives, nouns, verbs, or adverbs. You also need to know negative form like to interest. This is an example of part 3. Next, please. About the strategy. Sometimes you will be able to choose an answer by just by looking at the words before and after the gap. Sometimes you have to read the whole sentence, especially when we're talking about linking words, and never use abbreviations. Next, please.
Okay, reading performed. In the reading performed, known as a word formation, this is one for the hardness of the whole exam. It is your grammar and vocabulary. The rules and common mistakes, you must use the keyword and you can change the keyword. You must use between 2 and 5 words. Construction can last construction can last 2 words. Correct spelling is very important here, and write your answer is in capital letters. Don't waste time here because in this part of the exam is very hard and some question will be too hard for you, and the best option is write your best guess and move to the next question. General tips: make sure the nouns and verbs in your sentence agree with each other. For example, play, you play, he plays. In this case, here we have an example. John feels trains very interesting. The keyword is in the second sentence is John is very interested in trains. Some common studies. One thing you could do is to match part of the second sentence to the first sentence to see what's missing. Here we have an example. And reading for 5. Journal tips. The answer are in the same order as the question. Try your best to read what is said in the text, and don't bring your own option into the topic. Read as much English as you can help, and read the question as carefully as the text itself. Here we have an example of the first tip. Advantage tips: read the text before the questions. Be careful of traps. For example, once upon of time, there was a handsome Englishman, and many women around the world fell in love with him because he was kind and generous. Thank you.
Okay, now have to read part 6. Please, the next one. And as you can see in the picture, it's a long text. In this case, some sentences can be removed. Our job is to put them into the correct place. There are 6 gaps and 7 sentences, so there is one that we won't use. Next, please. General tips. You have to read the text with the gaps first. It's very helpful to know what the text is about. It's the most important sentences are the one before and after each gap. You have to read it very closely. Please, the next one. The text is full of clause. As you can see in the screen, this is a clear example of full clause. The next one. We have the question names and pronouns 1. This can be easy because Jack is he, and that's all. The next one. Names and pronouns 2. In this case, this can be hard because some answer can be it or also 1, but we have to be sure to make it right. The next one, please. Contrasting phrases. In this case, the answer is A gives a nice contrast. At first, the show was not popular, but later it was popular. The word, however, introduced the change from negative to positive. the next one, please. And now we have the question marks. Sometimes the gap will be in speed mark, as you can see there. That make it pretty easy to find the answer. Which one of the sentences sounds like it was said by a person? Please, the next one. And now we have, as you can see in this example, it's possible to have a lot of same answer. The graph might match with 2, 3, 4 answers. Please, the next one. Now we have the reading part 7. Please, the next one. And now we have another extensive reading. Please, the next one. How to do it? We have to read it, we have to start reading the introduction to the task. They will give us an idea of what the text is about. There are two options. We can either read the questions, read or the next words. And also we have to underline the keywords and phrases for a better understanding of the example. Please, the next one. And tips. There are a lot of questions about people's thoughts and feelings, so learn much of that vocabulary as possible. And this is the reason why we have to read for acquire more knowledge and vocabulary. And thank you. That's all, teacher.